He became a United States Senator on the Budget Committee. David Perdue ran a Fortune 500 company, which makes him unique in the United States Senate. For that matter, in the Congress overall. He joins us now to take us through what to expect from the tax reform package promised later today. Senator, welcome back to Bloomberg. Really great to have you here. So,
yeah, good morning, guys.
First, give us a sense. How much do you know? How much have they consulted with you, taken your advice, let you know what's going on about this package? How much do you know right now?
Well, inside the Senate Finance Committee, they've been working with the President and White House staff for the last 9 months. So we've been kept very informed on this. We've even had differences behind the scenes inside our own Republican caucus in the Senate. And many of those have been worked out, as you will find out in the next few days. But I'm very excited about this. President Trump is moving this to his top priority. We've got to get this done so that the economy can continue to move.
So, Senator, from the beginning, the President has been in favor of this because of the connection to growth. He wants to be a pro-growth president. I know that's very important to you as well. As a former CEO, what in what you've seen would actually drive growth? What would cause you to invest more in capital? What would cause you to employ more people in this tax proposal?
Well, David, first of all, you have to look at what's wrong in our economy today. We have over $6 trillion not at work in our economy today. The largest liquidity position in the Russell 1000 in our history. We have $2 trillion on the small banks and regional bank balance sheets right now unnecessarily. And then we have over almost $3 trillion in just C corporation profits overseas trapped by this repatriation tax. So what the President wants to do is to get the economy going by, he's already moved on regulations, he's moving on energy, and now he wants to move on tax. If we get the corporate tax rate to 20% and do away with some of these deductions that keep us from having a level playing field, get rid of our repatriation tax and simplify our individual tax code, this President knows instinctively that will grow the economy. And look, let's put it in perspective. Why do we want to grow the economy so badly? We need to put people back to work, improve the standard of living of our middle class, get more people involved in this economic miracle we have here in America. And just as importantly, we've got to solve this debt crisis long term. And this is one of the ways we do that.
So, Senator, if you were CEO again and you got that tax cut, let's assume you were actually paying 35%, the full rate, and you went down to 20%, how much of that 15% difference would you use to employ new people?
Well, I can tell you right now, I would meet the demand that you're talking about in an earlier segment. Right now, consumer confidence is at a 16-year high, and that's being reflected in demand being fairly strong in the third quarter. The reason we've got to get this tax done this year is so we can have some impact on holiday season consumption next year. What I would do is, and I've lived this, I ran a Fortune 500 company that had unrepatriated profits overseas. That's the big issue. I would bring those back and invest here in America. We've got the best workers in the world. We have the rule of law, we have innovation, and we have capital formation. Those are all the ingredients that can cause growth. What we haven't had is we haven't had an unfettered way to get at that capital, and now we'll have that. So yes, as a CEO, I'd be investing heavily behind this anticipated growth that I see coming from the American consumer and also from export potential.
Senator, you mentioned deficits, and so that raises the question, how are you going to pay for these various tax cuts for individuals and for corporations? When we talked to you earlier about proposals, you were dead set against the border adjustment tax for all sorts of reasons. Yeah. Now we're talking about repealing the deduction for state and local taxes. That raises all kinds of problems, as you know, with many of your Republican compatriots in their states because their constituents will be hurt. What happens to this bill if you can't repeal the SALT?
Well, first of all, we have to level the playing field, and we have many states with higher state tax that have financial problems today, and frankly, in some respects, this is a subsidy for those states. What we have to do right now, though, is level the playing field and get at the deductions. You mentioned paying for this. Look, in the first few years, there's no question, there's an investment that we're making by lowering these corporate tax rates. But look at what's happened in the rest of the world. And look at what happened here back in the 80s when we did it before. The Reagan tax cuts in the early 80s actually set the tone for the economic miracle some decade later. So what we've got right now is that same opportunity. If you look at the rest of the world, in 1986, when we lowered our corporate tax rate, we were the third lowest corporate tax rate in the world. Today, we're absolutely the highest. And we look at the rest of the world, they've caught up. Today, we are by far the highest corporate tax rate in the world. We've got to fund that somehow. But my belief is if you make these changes today, it will more than pay for itself. If we've been told by the Congressional Budget Office and GAO that a 100 basis point improvement in the GDP is over $3 trillion of corporate revenue over the next decade. So this is very, very critical we get this done right now.
So finally, Senator, to that point, getting it done right now, the president has said that he'd like to get something through the House in October and get a bill on his desk by the end of the year. How realistic is that? And specifically, how are you going to get there? Are you going to get there with only Republicans? Or do you think realistically you can get any Democrats?
I don't think we'll get any Democrats on this. We've seen that all along this year. We saw it in health care. We have a bipartisan effort going on right now in committee, and we're not getting any encouragement that that's going to move on health care. Look, right now we can do this in our own measure in the United States Senate. We've done it under reconciliation, under the budget process. We can get this done. But here's what's critical. This president knows this is a top priority to get his agenda completed this year. And the reason it's important this year, we have other things to move on to. We've got to move on to Social Security and Medicare eventually, but right now, to get America moving and get this economy moving, we've got to get this tax done. It is totally realistic to get this done this fall, but we only have 43 working days left between now and Christmas. And look, there's nothing magical about Christmas, and my fear is that politicians here in Washington will do what they normally do, and that's kick the can down the road, come back after Christmas, and work on it next year. That's not good enough. This president knows that if you get it done right now, it can affect back half of 2018.
Senator David Perdue of the great state of Georgia, thank you very much, sir, for joining us today.